Hello and welcome to this CUBE conversation. I'm Rob Strechay, Managing Director with the CUBE Research. Today we are going to explore the world of observability, where visibility and management meet business value. Really important to understand that. And to help me unpack this and deep dive into it, I'm excited to welcome David Link, founder and CEO of ScienceLogic, and Michael Nappi, CPO of ScienceLogic. Welcome on board, guys.
Great
Thanks,
to be
Rob.
with you, Rob.
I think, Dave, let's kind of start out and really dive in a little bit, unpacking the observability market and customer needs. Help us understand who ScienceLogic is today and how we really got here.
Well, ScienceLogic started out as an intelligent infrastructure management and monitoring company, but that has quickly changed over the past 10 years to an observability marketplace. And part of that is we started with a service-centric mindset, really code day one. And when we think about that, you can't manage what you can't see. So that service-centric mindset is looking at all the different technologies that come together to deliver a service outcome. It's a different approach than the APM approach. We started from the infrastructure on up into the application layer. APM started from the application and they're coming down into the infrastructure layer. So we're coming at it from two different angles. But what I think we've created here with our Skylar AI offering is a change to the way the industry norms. And that is really a service-centric view that's intelligent, always on, and really getting to the heart of IT not being broken, but just overloaded, getting to the heart of the issue and shifting towards that intelligent operations paradigm that customers always wanted.
Yeah, we see it in our research too. The observability and AI ops market has evolved dramatically over the past few years. Dave, how do you see the journey from traditional observability to what you're calling autonomic IT operations?
So you really have to understand the service view, all elements of the service. These services are becoming vastly more complex with every layer of abstraction that's added on to the network layers, to the systems layers, to the application layers. Every time we have a change in the compute architecture, we have a new generation of applications that flow from those unique capabilities. Look at what's happening now with generative AI and the applications with small and large language models, the RAG systems, that whole ecosystem of technologies that are delivering incredible capabilities didn't exist without the compute architecture. Similarly, cloud compute architecture enabled really the scale out of millions of concurrent users that started with mobile phones and the need to have a different way than the client server compute architecture. So every time you have these generational shifts, the applications evolve, and then how we run and operate them has to evolve as well. So Mike and I specifically have been thinking about this outside the normal confines of IT. As you have these transitions, often large globally distributed organizations may have one foot in each pond. So they really need to help integrate these data sets across these data lakes so that when they deliver outcomes to a user experience, they're looking at the entire complex hybrid service across these different compute architectures. And that's really what we designed our product to do.
Yeah, I think that actually factors into kind of a great question that I have, putting on the kind of the product hat now. Michael, I think one of the things that, David just hit on is, organizations are trying to figure out from an ROI perspective and from that customer perspective, what are the organizations asking for now that they weren't asking for 3 to 4 years ago? Because AI has definitely not made anything easier. That is for sure.
Sure. Yeah, and that's right. It's kind of amazing to think that ChatGPT 3.5 was released only 2.5 years ago. It was November of 2022. But that really changed. I kind of measure that as the beginning of Gen AI really disrupting all the industries, including IT. But with that sort of revolution, if you will, which we're still in the midst of, it's created new expectations within the four walls of the typical enterprise. The CIO, people coming into IT as a business, they now have an expectation that things are far simpler, fueled by AI, that you can just use natural language to interrogate what's going on with these arbitrarily complex IT estates. So I would say, Rob, that's fundamentally the change, is the expectation, the bar has moved up that, hey, this complexity needs to be simplified and AI should be able to help to do it. And obviously, we're a big believer in that. We've got a huge amount of data that we bring to the table, and AI is fundamentally a data problem. But over the 20 years of our history, we've collected arguably the most comprehensive IT data lake that exists. And that serves us in good stead as we talk about fueling these large language models and driving kind of a new kind of paradigm in terms of how IT can operate.
Yeah, no, I think that to me makes total sense because, again, as you bring AI into an agentic applications to bear, using AI to also, because you guys have been using AI under the hood, and we called it ML and more the traditional AI previous to generations and analytics. I think one of the things though that I love is really that ScienceLogic is really talking about and emphasizing the service-centric intelligent observability versus kind of that traditional node level monitoring, where I think, if you look back to the 90s and early 2000s, that's kind of where observability and monitoring was. It was more node oriented. Really, how has that changed things? And Dave, can you kind of walk us through what it looks like and how customers use SL1 and PowerFlow to connect infrastructure events to business outcomes, because that's really what they care about with these applications.
Rob, that's absolutely right. Today's IT environments generate more telemetry, logs, metrics than we could ever think about even 10 years ago. The great news story is as Moore's law is kept up with compute capacity and cloud compute capacity, we have the ability to pour through the density of information at a speed that was unprecedented, even considering a half a decade ago. So now with generative AI, we have an opportunity to really look at it post-processing, look at this information in a different light. And I think when I think about our agentic AI approach to solving problems, you picture one of the things that Mike and I did 3 years ago. We pictured what an L1 analyst, when they get an alert, could do differently in the future than today. And our thought process was perhaps they need the agent, the assistant, that level 2, level 3 resource that's smart enough to actually assist them with all the data that we have to come up with a recommendation that they normally have to escalate to their boss or to leadership or to somebody that had more seniority. It's how do we compress the time from 5 years to 5 weeks to get that person to be a knowledge agent within the organization across a set of use cases sometimes that don't occur that often. So bringing all this data to bear was the mindset. And then as we thought about how we had to change the user experience, we really thought about a clean slate. What should the user experience be like, the next generation of user experience, well beyond what we were seeing today with dashboards and sea of reds? How should we interact with a level 1 user in a very different way than ever before to give them the right information at the right time to make the right recommendation and or decide on the right automation? We've gone from goal-driven automation to, I think, automation that's handling these very complex workflows at speeds with initially a human in the loop, but then over time, that human helps understand with the compute environment what are the right automations to make. So it's a really exciting time. And the thing that I'm so excited about with our business is just the leapfrogs that we've seen in the user experience that we're making to create an active environment where the user has a very different way of working that's much more intuitive to the way their brain works.
Yeah, I agree. I think that being able to help that knowledge gap and really inform others to bring them up and upskill them is huge. And Michael, I think just kind of expanding on that, can you share a real world example of a customer who transformed their operations by adopting this service-centric approach? Because I think it is really unique to how people operate.
Yeah, absolutely. We have a number of customers that have been we've been working very closely with around remodeling their IT estate through a services lens. To just pick one, a very large telco in Northern Europe, we've been engaged with over the last couple of years, and they have close to 100,000 devices under management. This is compute, storage, networking devices. It's a huge concern, and some of these are on-prem, they're physical, they're virtualized, they're in the cloud. So it's about as complex as you can get. And what they've been able to do is leveraging the ScienceLogic platform, they've been able to essentially compose this compute storage networking infrastructure into a set of service models. And essentially, they use the service as the primary object of management. It's kind of the first class object in the whole system. And it's all about simplicity. It's all about taking something that's very complex and making it easier to manage. The metaphor I use a lot is being able to manage the forest instead of the trees. And service models and service views, we have a UI called Service Investigator. It allows you to see at a glance all of the infrastructure that's behind a particular service that's being delivered to the business. And against this view, we then bring in events that are coming in from the monitoring system. We bring in, for example, maybe approved changes that might be coming from ServiceNow. We bring in insights that might be coming from AI, either anomaly detection or predictive alerts, or et cetera. But you have this single kind of pane of glass, to overuse a term, that allows you to see everything that's going on with that service. And it just greatly simplifies. You're not swivel chairing between like the compute, the storage, the networking environments. You just have that single view of everything that's happening with the service. So it's incredibly powerful. It's a force multiplier from an efficiency standpoint, and allows you to get to root cause and take action proactively.
Yeah, I just building on that, Michael, I think that one of the things that must be really important is multi-vendor interoperability. You kind of hit on the whole hybrid, virtualized, not virtualized, cloud type of thing, but multi-vendor interoperability in today's environment has to be key. And what are you doing to support platform teams and AI engineers and business analysts beyond the IT ops aspect of it?
Sure. Well, I mean, at the end of the day, no platform is an island in a global 2000 enterprise. There's typically a wide variety of other tools doing various different functions within the enterprise. So interoperability, Rob, is absolutely paramount. And we've had from the very beginning at ScienceLogic the ability to extend our platform through something that we call Power Packs that allows you to collect data not only from stuff that we know about today, but from technologies that we don't even know about tomorrow. You can build your own Power Packs and pull in data into the ScienceLogic platform very easily. On the outbound side of things, it's very important to be able to connect the data that we collect to other systems. And sort of a canonical example of that with many of our customers, many of them are using ServiceNow, for example, for doing service management, incident management, problem change, the typical ITSM workflows. And we use the data that we collect at ScienceLogic to fuel ServiceNow's platform and make it more impactful for those use cases. We leverage something we call PowerFlow, which you referenced earlier, but PowerFlow is a no-code, low-code workflow automation capability and allows us to bidirectionally share data that we collect at ScienceLogic with any arbitrary endpoint. And so we use this to connect to ServiceNow. We can connect to Atlassian's environment for DevOps. We can connect to security platforms. So being able to federate the data that we have for these different use cases is vitally important. And it's a real power, I believe, of the ScienceLogic platform.
Yeah, I mean, Michael, that to me just really screams kind of leading the way with this whole agentic paradigm. And I think you guys at ScienceLogic with Skylar AI are really, diving in deep and leading the way on this new wave. What does agentic AI mean in practice within a ScienceLogic perspective, and how does it move customers from being like very reactive, the alerts come to me, to being more autonomous in their remediation of issues?
We've always believed, Rob, at ScienceLogic, that automation is an essential part of any IT operations platform. It's not enough to just know what's going on. You have to easily be able to take action. And so from our very beginning, we've had the ability to build runbook automation, which is kind of traditional event, condition, action kind of workflows. And then with PowerFlow, which I just talked about, we moved the needle a lot further towards being able to automate an arbitrarily complex workflow that could span multiple systems. Now, agentic AI has come onto the scene, and that's really a step function improvement in terms of what's possible in the world of automation. You now have these agents that are fueled by LLMs, and they have the ability to plan and reason and use tools. And as the name implies, agentic or agent, they operate on your behalf to go do some function. But what's incredibly powerful about these things is that they can do a lot on their own and reason based on the data that they're aware of. So they have a fair amount of autonomy. They can also come together into the kind of equivalent of a chat room, and using A2A and other protocols, these agents can kind of compare notes and together derive what the optimal solution might be. And so this is incredibly powerful, this technology, if you take it to the limit. I mean, the ability for essentially to have a variety of these semi-autonomous agents that are out there proactively understanding what's going on in the environment, and not only bubbling up insights around what's going on, but they're empowered to take action on your behalf to actually go in and remediate the issue automatically. So this notion of self-healing and autonomic operation that we've been talking about at ScienceLogic for a while is really made possible with agentic technology.
Yeah, I think, Mike, to add to that, every automation includes reasoning and context, which transforms those routine automations into something that continuously learns, accelerates the expertise, and as you said, then works together for even smarter recommendations and automations based upon that learned behavior over time. And it's constantly taking new inputs. If the learned behavior then gets another behavior that it has to relearn or rethink, it adjusts its calculus. So just as our brains do, we're always looking for the next set of inputs that helps us get to better reasoning as to what decision do we want to make right now.
And that would seem that it ties back really nicely into kind of business impact and metrics, and really helps organizations with revenue protection.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And
Yeah.
I mean, the ability with all these technologies, the data, the agentic possibilities allows IT to really break down some of the silos that traditionally exist in enterprises, because this data can be used in a variety of different use cases. And IT, being in its own little silo, just kind of keeping the lights on in terms of infrastructure and applications, is certainly important. But guess what? This data is going to be vitally important when you talk about SecOps, when you talk about accelerating DevOps, when you talk about informing strategic decisions that the CIO has to make about next steps that the business takes and so forth. So it really cracks open a whole set of cross-enterprise business workflows.
Yeah, no, I think so. I think again, and it seems like you're also being recognized for this. So, ScienceLogic has been recognized recently as a visionary in the Gartner Magic Quadrant and noted in the Forrester Wave for Observability and AI Ops. To both of you, in your own words, what do you think Gartner and Forrester are seeing that sets you apart in this category?
Well, Gartner specifically spoke about autonomous operations powered by agentic AI. I think Forrester also gave us the highest rating in our automation agentic capabilities in the platform. And as Mike said, that is the future. That is creating that aha moment for IT, where you're synthesizing these incredibly large data sets, real-time data sets that are ever changing, and providing that immediate expertise, the escalation, the automations that actually get proactive for a business. I mean, we are 10 years into digital transformation with movement of many applications within corporate IT to the cloud. Now we're looking at taking those data sets, among the most coveted data sets, and doing even more interesting enlightenment with the data sets with generative AI and those compute capacity capabilities. So understanding that whole service lens across it all and delivering that outcome to end users so that we're seeing all the different layers, these multiple layers of infrastructure and applications and security, as Mike said, and the CI/CD pipeline that's bringing forth change faster to these application suites than we ever saw before. And we know 70% of outages are caused by what? Still a change. The first thing that we ask when we get on a bridge call when there is an outage is what changed? So we're really fusing together so many of these data sets that come from lots of different data sources to a real-time view across these hybrid estates. But most importantly, Gartner and Forrester said, we have a vision of the future. It is a clear vision of the future where we get that aha moment through this intelligence to that level 1 engineer so we can make level 2, level 3 decisions. And that hasn't happened heretofore, but that truly is what IT needs given the speed and pace of change.
Yeah, I agree with Dave on that. I think fundamentally the vision, thought leadership that we've been able to establish with the likes of Forrester and Gartner is anchored on a few main things. Number one is we have this foundation at ScienceLogic. We've been in this business for a while. As I mentioned earlier, fundamentally AI is it's a data problem, it's a data opportunity, and we bring a huge amount of data to the party. So that's number one. Number two is our ability to render a very complex IT estate, hybrid IT estate, through a simple, easy to understand service view that's very powerful to work with is a differentiator for us. And then I think finally, our vision around initially generative AI and now agentic AI, I think sets us apart. We're using AI not only to understand what's going on and to suggest action, but we're using AI to fundamentally change how an IT operator interacts with the IT estate to go about their day-to-day business. As Dave touched on, some of the work we're doing around Skylar is going to transform the typical IT day-to-day workflows. It's just going to, we're using AI not only as a chatbot, but as a companion, as an advisor, as somebody that deeply understands the role of the IT professional and is curating what's going on to that role and allows them to to focus on the things where they have the most interest and where they make it the biggest impact.
Yeah, I think that that's the key is where customers are getting that value out of it is really what leads you to get those rankings because that's how, Forrester and Gartner go out and, it's ability to execute and how the customers feel about it. And that's how you end up being visionary. So I think that's great and great recognition for you. Looking across your ecosystem, partners, integrations, extensibilities, how does that contribute to your strategy? And why do the independent analysts sit there and go, okay, it's so broad. Here's how they can touch all of these different pieces. I mean, you talked about bringing in your own data from things that are not yet, packaged up yet. How does that really help, again, drive that type of, breadth to those customers and being recognized by the analysts? We'll start with Michael on that.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, our platform, as I mentioned earlier, is built with extensibility at the core, right? So in terms of partnership and fueling the ecosystem, we have a number of ecosystem partners that are adding value to the platform by developing other types of power packs that allow other types of technologies to be brought into ScienceLogic. We're having partners that are developing what we call sync packs that allow ScienceLogic data to be federated to other endpoints. And then as we move forward into this world of generative and then agentic AI, we see the opportunity for partners to bring their own specific domain expertise, perhaps in a vertical way, along healthcare, manufacturing, financial, and leverage ScienceLogic as a platform to have highly tailored, customized solutions on top of that platform that take advantage of the data and the reasoning capability that we have built in the platform to drive very specialized use cases for those industries.
Yeah, no, I think that makes total sense. And kind of bringing it to a close here a little bit, Dave, where do you see the future of observability going as AI really, I would say, reshapes IT operations?
Well, underscoring what I said earlier, our vision, 3 years ago, we started with a clean slate. Mike and I sat down, maybe it was 4 years ago, and said, if we were to think about our industry in 10 years, what might it look like? How do we get rid of all the tech debt in a platform? How do we think about the future using the best foundational technologies to build the next generation of products for our industry? And what outcome do we want to deliver to the end user, to our customer, to our customers' constituents? And our viewpoint at that time was, how could we get a level 1 analyst to provide the functional knowledge of delivering L3 sophisticated, level 3 sophisticated insights? And taking all that we've learned by observing the environment, by observing application layers, by observing the infrastructure layer, by observing, as Mike said, inputs from other resources, ITSM systems, notification systems, CI/CD systems. How do we make these service views self-smart, super smart, self-driving, so that they build automatically and then create that impact so that you've got that level 1 engineer that gets to a level 3 resource skill set in a kind of a short burst of time. And that was the vision, because we said, if we can do that, that is a leapfrog from where the industry was 3 years ago, 4 years ago. And we were seeing the compute capacity, the application capability, the reference architectures with small and large language models that we're integrating into our core product. That was going to enable us to actually deliver some of the vision, our vision statement to deliver against that. And that's where we are today. That's why we are a visionary from these third-party analysts. We really reset the clock, rebuilt the next generation, the next genre of products for our entire industry, thinking with a clean slate, and the analysts have noticed that. Our customers are noticing that. They're looking at us in a very different lens than ever before.
Yeah, and Michael, again, from a product perspective, where do you go next with Skylar AI, and kind of what's on your roadmap?
Well, it's a very exciting year for us, Rob. We rolled out Skylar Analytics, was kind of the first installment of our Skylar AI platform at the beginning of this year. The second half of this year is really focused on Skylar Advisor, and Skylar Advisor is that transformational user experience that I was referencing earlier, where it's essentially personalization on steroids for the IT professional. The underlying platform will understand the IT pro's role in the enterprise, and based on their activity and what they've done in the past, it will take out of all the things that are happening on a large IT estate. It'll curate those things, so when they get in the morning, they grab their cup of coffee, there's going to be, instead of 15,000 things in the sea of red, there's going to be 3 issues that have been curated for them to interact with, and there's going to be recommendations with those issues. In some cases, it might just be an advisory that Skylar's found this thing overnight and addressed it proactively based on its agents. But anyway, we believe that advisor interface, which is coming out towards the end of this year, we believe that's going to be a game changer for us. So the team's fully focused on that. We're really excited about it.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. And I think, again, for those who are out there watching, last comment here, what should organizations that are out there evaluating what they're doing in observability, what should they be asking their vendors to ensure that they're really ready for this service-centric, autonomous IT that is coming at them like a freight train?
Yeah, I think, Dave, I'll turn it over to you after this. But my take on answering that question is, in fact, we've actually created, Rob, something that we call the Autonomic journey. It's essentially a maturity model, and it shows you it's broken up by 5 stages, and then it's got data preparedness, it's got AI adoption, and it's got automation as kind of the x-axis. But the idea is, first of all, to engage in a conversation with customers, which we do all the time, to help them understand where they are today and where they want to go to in the future. At the end of the day, technology is a means to an end. I mean, so all this stuff sounds really cool, but customers are at different stages of their maturity level in terms of digital transformation. So first is to understand, where are they? What are the things where they can get the biggest bang for the buck, and either rationalizing their tools or their data and so forth, and then identifying what the North Star looks like, and then figuring out how the technology that we provide at ScienceLogic can help them achieve that and obtain that North Star. So I would say it's different on a customer by customer basis. And in spite of all the hype around AI, it's only as good as a customer's ability to adopt it and make the changes internally needed to really embrace it and maximize it. And so I think in every case, customers have to kind of look at what their own particular situation is. Dave?
Mike, I would add to that all those things, when you boil it together, observability is shifting towards that intelligent, highly productive operations lens that aligns to the business, not just IT. That's where we started the discussion. It's that service view. Really, code day one, when we were thinking about the problem, it's what is the service? And the service now is a compound set of applications, in some cases nested applications within these larger complex service views, where you really need to understand the entire subset of infrastructure, applications, security implications, all boiled up into one. What we're seeing and hearing from customers, Rob, is silos of tool after tool after tool after tool after tool isn't cutting it anymore. As Mike said earlier, they want all this telemetry to come into a large open architecture that can reason over it very quickly and make smart recommendations and get you right to the heart of the issue, hopefully resolve it before there is a service disruption. That's what IT wants. There's a new set of tools that are available, but sticking to best-in-class genre tools, which the industry has used for many years, that paradigm doesn't work anymore. That's broken. And so we're seeing this notion of a best-in-class platform. Interestingly, one of the analysts said they previously had 22 vendors in the sector. They shrunk it down to 10. And the subtitle of the report was the 10 platforms that matter the most. We are truly one of those platforms that integrates all these different data sets so that you can make smart, intelligent, agentic operations decisions and the recommendations to get that level one engineer skilled up faster than ever before.
Absolutely. I think that's a great place to leave it because I talk to platform engineers and platform teams all the time, and they're saying, hey, I don't need another tool. I need to consolidate and have better visibility, a service-oriented visibility across all of these because the applications are just unknowable out of their brains and spreadsheets. So, hey, I want to thank you both, David and Michael, for coming on board. This has been great.
Thank you,
Great
Rob.
to be with you, Mike, Rob.
And thank you for joining this CUBE conversation, and stay tuned for more on this topic and much more on theCUBE, the leader in technology analysis and news. Stay tuned.